guys are laughing, man. It's like you guys know. And that's the thing is the new covenant is for everybody. The new covenant is for everybody. You just...
So here he said this is our Edomite speaking, he said the new covenant is for everybody, right? Now let's continue.
The old covenant is only for Israel. In the new covenant, the Gentiles are grafted in.
He said the old covenant is only for Israel, and in the new covenant, the Gentiles are grafted in. But today we are going to deal with what that statement grafted in will be referring to and who is it referring to. Because he says in the new covenant, the Gentiles, what he referred to as the heathens, are grafted in, which we know is not the correct understanding. So now let's go into it, take our times, and go into the lesson. But before we do this, we give all honor, all glory, and all praises to Yahweh, Sokal, Halaliam, Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahushai, Bahasham, Rakakwadash. We give double honor to the apostles and prophets and elders of GMS Camp, but on our great millstone for the bring forth the 100% truth that have been currently edified under. Shalom to the elect, the tabernacle of David, and I'm your boy Kazak Yasharala coming to this lesson, dealing with the Gentiles and who were the Gentiles that were grafted in, basically. I don't have the title for the lesson as yet, but I will be going to some of the history like I promised you all concerning the book of Maccabees and so on and so forth, leading up to the Gentiles in the New Testament, to be exact, right? So like get some information. So this Edomite basically is trying to say that the Gentiles, the grafting is referring to the heathen nations aside from the Israelites, which we know is actually referring to the Israelites that fell off, right? That discontinued from their heritage according to the scriptures, right? And the brother of JMS in the Truth, Orlando, I don't know his name, but he even read Romans 9 and 3 and 4, which corrects every single thing that he has said. But the Edomite, because he has no understanding, he took it out of context because he doesn't know the scriptures. So now let's go and let's go and qualify this precept throughout this entire lesson and see how it leads back to this exact precept, right? Which the brother gave. So let's go into it. I go into Romans 9 and 3. And let's start at it says, for I could wish that myself were accursed from Hamashiach. Now this is Paul speaking. For my brethren, my kinsmen according to the flesh. Now we stop at there because we need to get some understanding as to the word brethren. So let's go into the definition of the word brethren to get the understanding, right? So let's get the word brethren, and as you go into it, it says
Strong's G80, Adelphos.
Adelphos, correct.
Adelphos.
So the transliteration, the pronunciation means is Adelphos, and it simply means in the outline of biblical usage. The right definition, the right definition would be having the same nation, having the same national ancestors, or belonging to the same people or countrymen. And as I go even further down, it says his brothers by blood, which is part of the sixth part, which was given here, his brothers by blood. So with that understanding, right, just to give some clarification, what qualifies the definition is the word kinsman that he mentioned. So if it's a brother by blood, right, the brothers by blood, he said, which means he was referring to his kinsman or his family line or his lineage, right, according to the scriptures. Now, as you go further, when you go into that kinsman, right, my brethren, my kinsmen, according to the flesh. So he clarifies what that brethren would refer to, what we give definition to by the word kinsman, because it qualifies what that brother concerning brothers by blood it is, because when you go into the definition, first they get transliteration.
Strong's G 4773. Sungenes.
Right.
Sungenes.
Yep. Sungenes. And it goes into the outline biblical usage as the same kin, akin to or related by blood. And this, like I said, qualifies brethren. So let's continue. And we have to do this as picky as possible because many people still have the misunderstanding, to be honest. So let's go into it. So it says, in a wider sense, of same nation, a fellow countryman. And as you go even further, it goes into the strong definition, say the same thing. A relative by blood, by extension, a fellow countryman, a cousin, kinsfolk, and kinsman. So it's by blood, according to the scriptures. Now, before we go this, we must identify who Paul is. What nationality is he? But before we go into that, let's continue with the lesson. Well, this part breaking it down. It says according to the flesh, which it says who are Israelites. So here he is now identifying that the nationality is referring to Israelites, which his nationality is. So the brethren and the kinsmen, which is according to his flesh, according to his lineage, were Israelites. And it says what? To whom pertaineth. Let's not forget this word. To whom pertaineth the adoption and the glory and the covenants and the giving of the law and the service of Yahweh and the promises. So we must understand who it pertains to. And it pertains to the children of Israel according to the scriptures. So the grafting in, the adoption, was pertaining to the children of Israel. Because what's the definition of adoption means? Adoption means taking one's child and bringing it up as one's own. Or the fact of being adopted, which is the same as grafting in. Grafting in, according to understanding, is taking a branch from a tree and grafting it onto another tree of the same species. Or I'm not saying of similar species, Salakia. I'm saying the right thing. That is grafting in. Doesn't it sound familiar to you? He read this, and my guy completely disregarded it. A precept that identifies something and solidify and confirm something, if there's a precept ahead of it that says something that may sound different, it doesn't disregard what the initial precept is, because this is the standard. This is the order. Romans 9, 3 and 4 would be the order of the whole scriptures, even in the Old Testament. So we must now identify how is this be, because we know in Romans 11, it spoke about the Gentiles being grafted in. So they're saying that the Israelites are the ones that are under the law and are the only ones that are going to receive the adoptions, the glory and the covenants and the giving of the law and the service of Yahweh and the promises. So now we must try to find out. This is the reason for studying. This is the purpose for studying. But, and in the standard of the word grafting, this is the standard I would say in order for the tree to live longer or to live more prosperous with bear more fruits, it must be grafted in with the same botanical genus, meaning same family. Oh wow, now we're having some understanding, right? When you go into it more, remember plants have different patterns of exilium and I think it's folium that are joined during grafting. If there's a difference, the grafting process will fail, meaning that your plant will die within a day, or even if it's similar but it's not similar enough, it will die within 2 years, which means it's not even effective. We have to understand that. Example, if you join a mango and a fig tree together, it will not even bear anything. It will die within the same time. Or an apple and an orange tree, it may last a little longer within a space of 1 to 2 years, but it will still be unalive. It will still die. This is the reason why the scriptures mention the wild olive branch, because it's a family line, a kinsman to the goodly olive tree. Now, when you don't have wisdom, you could you could say all these things, but the way you looked in this the way you look on this video makes me question how y'all could say we are dumb and y'all can't even figure out the scriptures. Y'all read shit verbatim with no understanding, expect to get understanding of the scriptures. Come on now. Come on. That makes no sense. So that goodly olive tree that merges that has been grafted in, that has grafted in the wild olive branch, would have been of the wild olive branch would have been of the same kin. And in this context, the wild olive branch would represent the Gentiles, which the Greeks, which are the Gentiles according to the scriptures. Now, I have this question. If Paul said this in Romans 3 and 4, that is referring to the Israelites, which we're going to read again. For I could myself were accursed from a Mashiach, from my brethren, my kinsmen according to the flesh, who are Israelites, to whom pertaineth the adoption, and the glory, and the covenant, and the giving of the law, and the service of Yahweh, and the promises. And Paul was an apostle unto the Gentiles, which you go into Romans 11 and 13. This is what you all need to really grasp. You all can't grasp the concept. Right? It says, for I speak to you Gentiles in as much as I am an apostle of the Gentiles. I magnify Salakia, mine office. So he's telling you who he is, who he is magnified to, or who he was giving this message to. But he is an Israelite. Which when you go just higher up, it tells you, I say then, had the Most High cast away his people? God forbid. He makes sure and cuts that by as it is. And this Edomite is saying before that no Israelite is going to be saved unless the Gentiles are grafted, which is correct. But he's not. He doesn't know what that Gentile means. So we will get into that. But let's continue what it says. Romans 11 and 1. I say then, had the Most High cast away his people? God forbid. For I am also an Israelite of the seed of Abraham, of the tribe of Benjamin. He clarifies that in Romans 11 and 1. So if that's the case, then what would that mean? If he's telling you that the promises and the glory and the salvations for the Israelites, according to Romans 9 and 3 and 4, and he's an apostle to the Gentiles so that the Gentiles could be saved, and this Romans 9, 3 and 4 is the standard, and he is an Israelite, wouldn't that mean that the Romans 11, the Gentiles would be Israelites as well, that don't know that they are? But in order for us to know that, we must go back to our history and match it with the scriptures to get understanding, or to understand why these Gentiles, these Greeks, which were Gentiles, would receive that salvation. Let's see why. Because remember, the scripture says in 1 Corinthians, like I said before, 1 Corinthians chapter 14 and verse 33. Now I will bring this up because you all like to be confused. For the Most High is not the author of confusion, but a peace, as in all churches of the saints. Salakia. And if you realize, he tries to disregard Paul's writing in Romans 9 and 3. Now, what he said in Romans 11, look at how I'm not going to disregard what he said, but I'm going to correct what he said, because he cannot correct what I said. Yeah, see the difference? There's a difference in having wisdom and not having wisdom. He doesn't have it. So let's go into it. All right. When you go into the history, which you can grab on the next app, I have it here saved, right, in notes, just so you can get some clarification, right? The history of the Greeks, which were initially the Israelites that were Hellenized according to the scriptures and according to history, because I have the history right here, which you all can get in jewishhistory.org. Very clear, plain as day. We all know who Alexander the Great is. We all know what took place. And even the Maccabees has that. So let me read the book of Maccabees and let me match it with the history to see how the Israelites became Greeks and became Gentiles and how they fell off. How did they discontinue from their heritage? All right, so let's go into it. When they go into Maccabees, first Maccabees 1 and verses 1 to 15, it says, and it happened after Alexander, the son of Philip, the Macedonian, in understanding Adam Edomite, but let's continue, who came out of the land of Chittim. My phone screen color just changed, so like, yeah. I hope this will cut off like last time. Please don't cut off like last time. Okay, let me just read what happened. All right. Out of the land of Chittim had smitten Darius king of the Persians and Medes, that he reigned in his stead, the first over Greece. It says, and made many wars and won many strongholds, and slew the kings of the earth. This stronghold had been won. Remember the scriptures say what? The earth is given to the hands of the wicked. This is the time where the Edomites in understanding begin to grow and begin to develop in strength. And we have to understand that. The Edomites, the wicked according to the scriptures, Malachi 1 and 4, the border of wickedness, which is Esau, Edom. So we have to clarify and identify that. As you go on, it says, and made many wars and won many strongholds and slew the kings of the earth, and went through to the ends of the earth and took spoils of many nations, in so much that the earth was quiet before him, because the earth was given unto him. He was being raised up, just like Egypt being raised up in power, so that the Most High could demonstrate his judgment or his power against them in same like manner. So at this time, the Edomites were being raised up, because what the scriptures say, Jacob have I loved and Esau have I hated. They are the vessels of wrath fitted for destruction. They are the vessels of dishonor. In order to display that dishonor, which is a proper balance, there must be something rising up for the Most High to demonstrate his power, saving the children of Israel yet again, and bringing them out of captivity, which has been shown in multiple times during the scriptures. So let's continue. It says, I'll read it. It says, right, and went through the earth, I went through to the ends of the earth, and took spoils of many nations, insomuch that the earth was quiet before him, whereupon he was exalted, and his heart was lifted up. See, and he gathered a mighty strong host, and ruled over the countries and nations and kings, who became tributaries unto him. And after these things he fell sick, and perceived that he should die. Now let me go up just so you can get some more. It says, wherefore he called his servants, such as were honorable and had been brought up with him from youth, and parted his kingdom among them while he was yet alive. And Alexander reigned 12 years and then died. See, now this was the history. What did he do according to the script, according to the history which we could read here just now? It would show in proper understanding what was taking place. So let's continue. Right. And his servants bare rule everyone in his place. And after his death, they all put crowns upon themselves, and so did their sons, and sons after them many years, and evil will multiply exceedingly, because they began to take strongholds all over the earth. They began to increase in strength and gain power over all the earth. That is why the scriptures say what? The wicked has exceedingly polluted the whole earth. They have tampered with many of our people and many people around the earth. By slaughter, by ravish, by resources. There's many examples that I don't even have to say, because you just have to go in these countries, third world and second world countries, and ask them what took place, and they will give you the answer. Identifying who the Edomites are, man. This identifies who the Edomites are, man. So let's continue, because people just want to hear that. And there came out of them wicked root Antiochus, surnamed Epiphanes, the son of Antiochus the king. And Antiochus, if you don't know, was the Hellenistic king. He was the Hellenistic king. Antiochus, I believe it was. I don't want to butcher it, so let me continue. Who had hostage at Rome, and he reigned in the 137 year of the kingdom of the Greeks. Salakia. In those days, went there out of Israel wicked men, meaning wicked Israelites, who persuaded many, saying, let us go and make a covenant with the heathen that are round about us, for since we departed from them, we have had much sorrows. Now, when you understand, this is the time when our people began to fall away. Why do I say that? So this device pleased them well, meaning they agreed. Then certain of the people were forward herein. They accepted and they proceed to do so. That they went to the king, who gave them license to do after the ordinances of the heathens. I remember what did, now I want to ask this question, what did Leviticus 18 went about, especially dealing with 28 to 30? That we're not supposed to keep the customs. Let me go into just to be on the safe side before we continue. Now you see the falling off, the falling away. When they go into Leviticus 18 and verses 28 to 30, it tells you that the land spew you not, so like 29, so like it says, for whosoever shall commit any of these abominations, even the souls that commit them shall be cut off from among the people, from among their people. See, referring to the Israelites, right? It says, therefore shall ye keep mine ordinances, and ye commit not any one of these abominable customs of the heathen, which were committed before you, and that ye defile not yourselves therein, for I am Yahweh, your power. If you do so, you shall be cut off from among the people. In other words, you would be discontinuing from your heritage. But let's continue. No one want to hear that, right? We don't want to hear that. Y'all Edomites want to hear that. You want to bypass that and just be like verbatim readers. Hey, it's for everybody because you're still crying to be saved. But you're not going to be saved. You're going to be destroyed. Anyways, let's continue. It says, whereupon they built a place of exercise at Jerusalem according to the customs of the heathen. And that time, this was the gymnasiums, which they would the gyms which they would use for naked gymnastics and naked workouts. Yeah, this is the abominable customs that they accepted, they had taken, which we could read even in the history. But let's continue reading. Let's not spoil it. That's spoiled it already, but let's continue. It says, let me read it again. Whereupon they built a place of exercise at Jerusalem according to the customs of the heathen, and made themselves uncircumcised, and forsook the holy covenant, and joined themselves to the heathen, and were sold to do mischief. Which would mean, like see my say there, which would mean they were circumcised before. And how does someone make themselves uncircumcised? Romans 2:25. For circumcision is verily profited, if thou keep the law, Salakia. But if thou be a breaker of the law, thy circumcision is made uncircumcision. Meaning, they did not keep the customs of Yahweh Hashem Yahushai. They, as we read, let me read it again, and joined themselves to the heathens, and were sold to do mischief. Point proven. Discontinuing from their heritage. This is not all, but this is many of our people. They became like the Gentiles. They became Greeks. You can't make this shit up. It's history. Do some more research before you come out talking this babbling nonsense. It's not profiting you nothing. It's just making you look like a damn scoff and a fool. Let's continue. Like go into the history. It says after, this is the history. After the death of Alexander, which we read, in the first part where he perished, after that of Alexander the Greek Empire in the Mediterranean basin divided into two main sections: the Northern Empire, which includes Syria and Turkey, which was then Asia Minor, and the Greece itself was under the domination of a general called Seleucus, and therefore called the Seleucid Empire. I don't know why my tongue is tied for that. Anyways, it says the Southern Empire, which was basically Egypt and Africa, was under the domination of the general called Ptolemy. It says these kingdoms would rule the Mediterranean world until Rome. See? So the Greek kingdom was the kingdom that was found upon and brought upon before Rome came. Therefore, in order for us to reach into the New Testament, dealing with that Roman Empire, the Greco-Roman Empire, we would have to have knowledge of the history of the Greeks and what took place. Instead of jumping to conclusion, but let's continue. It says, sandwiched between them was a land of Israel when the two empires were at peace with each other. It says there was a lot of trade to be had. However, when there was war, it was a very dangerous place to be. For various reasons, the Jews favored the Southern Empire, the Ptolemy these Titan words. I was gonna figure the P, the Ptolemaic, Salakia for the pronunciation. It has happened. My tongue just, boy, alright, it's on fire today. It says they had a fascination with Egypt since their original sojourn there, and a large Jewish community in Alexandria also provided a kinship with them. Now let's deal with the Hellenists, because this will help you to continue identity and understand, because this one I was dealing with after the death of Alexander the Great. But now let's go into what was taking place as a part of us being Hellenized, which was the starting point in First Maccabees, when they go down into where the Israelites, the wicked of our people, decided to join with the heathen nation. So let's go into it. About the year 200 BC, there rose among the Jews population a group called the Mizyavinim, if that's how it's pronounced, meaning Hellenists, who adopted Greek. So there's our people adopted the Greek culture. Now you understand who were the Greeks in the New Testament. But let's continue. Because you all don't want to hear that. It says, who adopted Greek culture as a way of life to such a degree that almost invariably they gave up their Jewish culture and identity. What did they do? They joined with the heathens, according to 1 Maccabees 1:15. They gave up their Jewish culture, or the culture of the Israelites, and identity, which are the Israelites. This is what they gave up. So there's a reason why in the scriptures they would now be referred to as Gentiles. They gave up their identity. They discontinued from their heritage. Now let's continue. It says, for instance, the Greeks were great believers in nudity. Their sports were done in nudity, in nude. Their bathhouses were attended in the nude. And in the ancient world, the Jews and some Arabs were the only people who were circumcised, because guess what? The Jews, they received that being brought down the Arabs via Ishmael. Because guess who his father was? Abraham. So it was passed down. Of course, Ishmael didn't keep all the customs, but certain things they would have hold on to. They like to pick and choose, basically. But anyways, as you go on, it says, Jews and some Arabs were the only people who were circumcised. It says, thus, if you wanted to be a good Greek, listen, if you wanted to be a good Greek, you were embarrassed to go to the bathhouse or participate in sports, of course, if you were circumcised. Consequently, Hellenized Jews underwent painful operations at a time with minimum anesthetics to restore their foreskin and appear Greek. Now, if this isn't clear enough to give you understanding as to who the Gentiles or Greeks that's going to be saved is referring to, I can't tell you that now again, but let's continue reading. It says, imported along with the Greek language. Now keep that in mind. Greek language and customs and sports were Greek language, customs and sports were Greek idols and modes of worship. So you're seeing what was being adopted at the point, what was being taken in at the point in time by the Jews, the Hellenized Jews. It says temples to the Greek gods and statues of Zeus littered the countryside. Each Greek home had its own set of idols, a patron god custom made for the family, as well as a whole set of sacrificial rites. Worst of all, Greek strongholds embraced all of the terrible moral looseness of Greek world. As time passed, more and more Jews not only spoke like Greeks, but took on their customs, attitudes, and behaviors, which on so many levels were anti-ethical. Anti-ethical. It says two values of Judaism, which is of our people. And slack for the pronunciation is anti-theatrical, but my tongue is just be it is. You see what is happening. I know the word is just boom, and then how to come and say it again. So that's what it is. It says esteems. Let me continue. It says, all right. Estimates are that within 30 to about 40% of the Jew population became Hellenists. They became Hellenized in proper understanding. It says most of the upper class was simply swept away by this tide of Hellenist thoughts. It says some, let me scroll so you can get some more information. Some were no doubt simply ignorant of the Jewish life and tradition. Others, however, became vicious self-haters. So our people begin to hate ourselves, hate their own selves. It says the Greek found many willing collaborators among the Jews in their attempt to eradicate Judaism, which in other words, oh gosh. Right, so as we continue, back to read. Read again. The Greek found many willing collaborators, right, among the Jews in their attempt to eradicate Judaism, which is our customs, our heritage, our laws, and statutes and commandments. That is what it's referring to. It's not referring to actual Judaism. That we don't deal with religion. We are literally a people, the Israelites, a people, not by blood and by willingly following Yahweh Shem Yahushai, as is His will, not willingly, His will. It's not by religion, but we know religion means, but you know what I mean, not how the world perceive religion to be. But let's continue. And install the more enlightened pagan cultures of theirs in Israel. So they begin to what? Profane, I would say, pollute the sanctuary, pollute the holy place, pollute the land. It says these Hellenist Jews hated their brethren, they hated their own people, see, and openly sided with the enemies of Israel who attempted to destroy the Jewish nations and faith. As you see, one of the processes of trying to attempt it is the process of iconoclasm, which was mentioned in the same book of Maccabees. Iconoclasm, taking one's history as their own and erasing it from the original people. Iconoclasm. I wonder who is doing that today, who have done that. I wonder why the creator is now Esau, Edom man, and not a Jake, because Esau, Edom, as we understand, is the red all over like a hairy garment, which perceived to be red skin. Not red as in red skin, but fairly red skin. Blood showing in the skin. White people. But anyways, and those whose seed line goes back to Esau, Edom, or their descendants. But let's continue. Yeah, I hope you'll get that before you continue. You get that right? Right, Edomite? The one who was talking nonsense, you get that? Now let's continue, right? So, let me go back and it says, they hated themselves for being Jewish. Yeah, they hated themselves for being Jewish and resorted to things like painful cosmetic surgery, not only to blend in better with the Greeks, but as a sign of defiance in their attempt to remove any trace of being being Jewish from their bodies. Now you understand why the Jews didn't want to bring in the Greeks, because they were, even though they were our people, they became abominable. They severed their heritage with Yahweh Shimon Shai. But anyways, let's continue. Imagine undergoing painful cosmetic surgery to look like an Edomite. Like Michael Jackson. Look at that, a very good example. But anyways, let's continue, because you all don't want to hear that. You all don't want to understand who has done these things. How many women has done painful surgeries to make themselves look like a Esau, like a white person, remove the pigmentation of the skin, and all these things. Have we not seen these things over the years? Do we not understand that these things repeat itself? Identifying who our people is, who the true people of Israelite are. But y'all don't want to see the history, so you will never understand the mystery. So anyways, let's continue. It says, naturally, the victory of the Maccabees over the Greek, which we will discuss. This is what I put here. I didn't put that. This is what I put here. It says, was a great disappointment to them. To who? To the Jews who wanted to be, who wanted to become Greeks, who made themselves Greeks. That is what was a disappointment to them, because they wanted to remain in this captivity, in this state of mind. Jews, true to Judaism, were increasingly shrinking. Were an increasingly shrinking island, as awash in a sea of Greek culture, meaning they were being washed away, meaning they were eventually succumbing to the same traits that the other Jews that accepted it did. In understanding. So it says they were victims of a culture revolution that in a short time would have completely swamped them. It says, however, historical currents were at work which would give the besieged Jews an opening not only to stop the momentum of Greek culture, but reverse it and replace it with a brand new aspect of Jewish identity. Whoa! Now do we understand how we came about here today, having these Edomites saying who we are and all that shit? Or do we need to keep going? At this point, it's obvious, evident. But let's go. Let's keep going. It says that, let me go back and the Jewish identity that would provide spiritual nourishment for countless generations in the future. That nourishment would become known to posterity as the story of Chanukah. It's called Chanukah. And when you go into the book of Maccabees, let's start at verse 41. Let's start with the Antiochus, which was mentioned Let me go back into the Antiochus, which we read, that was mentioned, and how the customs and all these things came about, and what they did do, Hellenizing us, as many of us were willingly accepting this, and willingly wanted to turn away from the Most High, and hated themselves, and did cosmetic surgeries to look like the heathen nations, like the Greeks. They spoke like them. They tried to look like them. They even resewed the skin, the foreskin, to not be circumcised. Do we not understand what Hellenization is now? Or how did we come as a people and became Greeks or Gentiles? This is the history. Now let's tie with the Maccabees. Maccabees 1 and verse 41. It says, moreover, King Antiochus to his whole kingdom, and wrote to his whole kingdom, that all should be one people. You see that? It says, and everyone should leave his laws, so all the heathens agreed to the custom of the to the commandments of the king. It says, yea, many also of the Israelites. Exactly what was seen here. Exactly showing that these Israelites would have agreed to take on the customs and become Greeks. So were the Hebrew Israelite lying? Nope, they won't. Who lying? Y'all Edomites are. And anybody who want to accept the Edomites' knowledge and wisdom, which they don't have, y'all are liars too. But let's continue. I'm going to go back into it. It says, yea, many of the Israelites consented to his religion and sacrificed unto idols and profaned the Sabbath. For the king had sent letters by messengers unto Jerusalem and the cities of Judea, that they should follow the strange laws of the land, and forbid the burnt offerings and sacrifice and drink offerings and temples, and that they should profane the Sabbaths and pollute the Sabbaths and festival days and pollute the sanctuary and the holy people. Now, before you continue, the part where they accepted, meaning willfully accepted, is why this has to be brought out. Because when you go into as you read again, Leviticus, plain as day, whosoever shall commit any of these abominations, even the souls that commit them shall be cut off from among their people. They will become Gentiles or no people. Remember the scripture say, they were not my people, they became a no people. So they would be a Gentile, or whatever nation they would reside, they would call themselves upon, which are the Greeks at that time. But anyways, even when you go into, I think it's Numbers, if I have it corrected, Numbers 15 and I believe verse 30. Let's go from verse 30, yeah. Right. Let's go into it. Let's go into this. Verse 30 and 31. It says, but the soul that do that do ought presumptuously, whether he be born in the land or in a stranger, meaning born out of the land, the same reproacheth Yahweh, and that soul shall be cut off from among the people in understanding. But those who brazenly violate the Lord's will, whether native born Israelites or foreigners, have blasphemed Yahweh, or has blasphemed the Lord, and they must be cut off from that community. And here it says, because he had despised the word of Yahweh and had broken his commandment, and it says, that soul shall utterly be cut off, his iniquity shall be upon him. And what they did do according to the understanding, the exact same thing that the Most High said not to do. So they were cut off. That's it. But let's continue. It says, set up altars and grow some chapels and idols and chapels of idols and sacrifice swine's flesh. Now, let me come and clarify something here, because I believe in Leviticus 7 and 20, it says, let me go into it. I don't want to butcher it. Leviticus 20. I just want to be on the safe side here. I just want to be in a correct understanding right here. I just need to. It needs to. If I have it incorrect, Salakia. It says, moreover, the soul that shall touch any unclean thing, and as the uncleanness of a man, or any unclean beasts, or any abominable unclean thing, and eat of the flesh or of the sacrifice, I had it incorrect, but still, touch of peace offering, which pertain unto the Most High, even as so should be cut off from among the people. But I was trying to get the precept where basically abominable, I would say the swine's flesh basically being unclean. But let me see if we find that. Unclean, no, I might come at the same thing. Swine. And there we have it. Right? The swine, as says Leviticus 11, well, they're the opposite apparently. Leviticus 11 and 7. It says, though he divided the hoof and be cloven-footed, and yet he chewed not the cud, he is unclean to you. So they were making themselves abominable, sacrificing swine's flesh and unclean beasts, other unclean animals. It says that they should also leave their children uncircumcised, which I think I have something for that too. I believe is in Genesis, either Genesis or Numbers. Genesis 17. It says the uncircumcised man-child, whose flesh of his foreskin is not circumcised, that soul should be cut off from among his people. He had broken my covenant. So you're seeing where time and time, with every single custom of these heathens would have severed the covenant between these Israelites that accepted to do these things and join themselves with the heathen. So you understand where I'm coming from? So this by itself tells you, but let's keep going. It says, and make their souls abominable with all manner of uncleanness and profanation. It says, to the end they might forget the laws and change all the ordinances. See that? Change all the ordinances. And whosoever would not do according to the commandment of the king, he said that he should die. This is proper understanding right here. So our people were deeply Hellenized. They didn't want our customs anymore, and the king made a declaration that if you'll keep it because you'll agreed to join with us, you will be unalived. Let's keep going. Let's go up a little bit. All right, let's start from here. Verse 51. It says, and in the self same manner wrote he to his whole kingdom and appointed overseers over all the people, commanding the cities of Judah to sacrifice city by city. Then many of the people were gathered unto them, with every one that forsook the laws, and so they committed evils in the land, and drove the Israelites into secret places, even wheresoever they could flee for succors. It says, now the 15th day of the month, it says, is Kaslu, it's how that's so pronounced. Slack, if I pronunciation. Right back. Shit. So, all right. Right. So, where I reach? Where do I reach? All right. Yeah. 54. Now the 15th day of the month, Kaslu, in the 145 years, it says they set up the abominations of desolation upon the altars and build idol altars throughout the cities of Judah on every side. It says the burnt incense at the doors of their houses and in the streets. And verse 56, it says, and when they had rent in pieces the book of the law which they found, they burned them with fire. And come on, we see that happening today. Who is burning our books with fire? The other nations. But anyways, it says, whosoever was found with any book of the testament, if any committed the law, the king's commandment was that they should be put him to death. It says, thus did they be this. Oh my gosh, I don't know. As I come back, I start to get bad. Anyways, thus did they by the authority unto the Israelites every month, to as many as were found in the cities. It says, now the 25th day of the month they did sacrifice upon idol altars, which was upon the altar of the Most High. See that? So they profane they pollute the altars, they profane everything. It says, at which time, according to the commandment, they put to death certain women that had caused their children to be circumcised. It says they hanged the infants about their necks and rifled their houses and slew them that had circumcised them. So anybody who was keeping the customs of the children of Yahweh Shem Shai, which was given unto the children of Israel, would have been put to death. As you see here, even their children would be dead. But let's continue, because you don't want to hear that, right? It says, and they hanged the infants about their necks and rifled their houses and slew them that had circumcised them. Howbeit many in Israel were fully resolved and confirmed in themselves not to eat any unclean thing. Wherefore the rather to die, that they might not be defiled with meats, and that they might not profane the holy covenant. So then they died, and there was very great wrath upon Israel. So you're seeing, they were now being forced, those who still wanted to keep the customs. Remember, many of our people agreed. The rest did not agree and proceed to keep the customs of Yahweh Shem Yahushai, the laws, the statutes, and the commandments of our people. And they were forced. And if they didn't, as you see, they would have been unalive. They would have died. So in 2nd Maccabees it says, which I love, this precept goes straight to the point. You all cannot disprove this because this is history. So now that we've seen history showing itself out, this cannot be disproved. So like going to 2nd Maccabees chapter 6 and verses 3, it says, the coming of this mischief was sore and grievous to the people, for the temple was filled with riots and reveling by the Gentiles, who dealt with harlots and had to do with women within the circuit of the holy places. So you know what happened. It says, besides that brought in things that were not lawful. And it goes for in verse 5 it says, the altar also was filled with profane things, which the law forbiddeth. Neither was it lawful for a man to keep the Sabbaths of ancient fasts, or to profess himself to be a Jew. So if he cannot profess himself to be a Jew in the kingdom where the Greeks would reside, what would he then be called? A Greek or a Grecian. It's simple. Which goes back into what we read. Did we not read that? Going back into the history, dealing with the Hellenists. Go back into the top, coming all the way down. What's the title of it? The what? Hellenists. That's us, man. So anyways. Let me go back down. So we see even more and more proof. More and more proof. Now what are you going to say about that now? So the information that was brought is a lie. That was saying. JewishHistory.org, that's a lie. Okay, no problem. Let's continue. It says, and in the day of the king's birth, every month they were brought by bitter constraints to eat of the sacrifices, and went And when the fast of Bacchus was kept, the Jews was compelled to go into procession to Bacchus carrying ivy. And moreover, there went out a decree to the neighbor cities of the heathen by suggestion in Ptolemy against the Jews, that they should observe the same fashions and be partakers of their sacrifices. So you see, and whoso would not conform themselves to the manner of the Gentiles, should be put to death. Then might a man have seen the present misery. So imagine this. Imagine this is what's happening. And you are living in this kind of mindset, and you have to teach your children these abominable things. And that passed down from children to children, and children to children, and children to children. How would then your great-grand or great-great-grand know who they are? Wouldn't they not think that they are Grecians or Greeks, like how we think we were Trinidadians before we come into this truth? Or Americans, or before we come into this truth? Make it make sense. Make it make sense. This is the reason why in the New Testament, the Greco-Roman Empire would have mentioned the Greeks or Grecians. And who were they? They were fallen Israelites, the ones that discontinued from their heritage that their forefathers did, and they knew not who they were. This is evidence that cannot be disproved. It cannot be debunked. This information is key to understanding who the Gentiles or the Greeks were. But let's go on. You all want to hear that, so let's go on. It says, it's okay. It says for damn. It says, for there were two women brought who had circumcised their children, whom when they had openly led round about the cities, the babes handing at their breast, they cast them down headlong from the wall, meaning they killed them, they bashed their heads, they destroyed them. For there were so okay, let me just I need some water.